And if it's okay with you, Dave, one thing that I thought we could do was while we wait for everybody to join the webinar, I had a few sort of questions to ask you, and we'll start that way, and then afterwards we can let you do your presentation, which we're all very excited about.
Absolutely. Anything you'd like to do here is good.
Well, listen, I thought it could be quite interesting since we have you, and especially since we have you for a nice amount of time. And maybe just to give a quick introduction to everybody, I'm Jorge Ramiro Monroy. I'm the managing director of EMC, and we were one of the original investors in Cassiar. The way that I was introduced to Dave was via Doug Kerwin, who, for those of you who might know him, he was the VP of Exploration at Ivanhoe. When we told him we were involved with Cassiar, he said, "Oh, you must talk to Dave," who actually had a chance to work at this project over a decade ago, I believe. I had actually been aware of you because I had read the paper that you had written regarding the orogenic belt, talking about Sheep Creek, which is one of our other properties, Barkerville and Cassiar. But I don't know if you would mind maybe giving us a little bit of your background with Cassiar, how you came to know the property, and I think it'd be quite interesting for everybody to know.
Absolutely. So I work as a consultant doing structural geology work, but I also advise a few companies. And in the late 2000s, I was approached by Richard Barkley and Michael Belay, who had founded Hawthorne Gold. Richard and Michael were also the founders of Bema Gold and Eldorado Gold historically. So this is the project that they wanted to take to their retirement stages of their career. And they'd consolidated this very large land position at Cassiar, which now the Cassiar Gold has benefited from, because this is the same position that their company, which was Hawthorne Gold, had put together. So I was intrigued by it because it's such a large land position with a lot of exploration potential. So I joined their advisory board and spent a little bit of time coming back and forth to the project, helping out the geology team. So that's my background with the project. And so when Cassiar put together their management team with Doug and Jorge and Marco and a very capable team of management, I thought it would be a nice opportunity to continue the relationship both with the team and the project itself. And so that's why we're here. So I can, some of what I'm going to show you today is from direct knowledge gained through on the ground work during that time, and then through follow up with the Cassiar Gold team over the last couple of years.
David, I think maybe for some of the people that might not be too familiar with your background, if you don't mind to share a little bit about how you got involved with, especially specifically with this concept of orogenic gold. Every time I talk to people, especially investors, and I mention your name, and not a lot of people sort of generally know you, but everybody holds you in very high esteem, sort of the industry insiders, and really speak very highly about as one of the top structural geologists. Would you mind sharing with us a little bit of your background and what attracted you to specifically orogenic gold, and maybe tell us a little bit about the paper that you wrote, which a lot of people like to reference?
Well, absolutely. But so I have an extensive background in orogenic gold, as you imply, but also in other deposit types too. But orogenic gold in particular, I commenced working on very early in my career in the Abitibi belt, and still do. I work for a lot of major clients in that area, looking at their deposits, the structural controls on their ore bodies, and also around the world. That's led to other work globally. So I've been very fortunate in having worked on a lot of very advanced projects and operating mines. So when one does that, of course, you get a very good impression of what really makes an ore body and what makes a district. And so that's, again, one of the attractions we have here, is that we have the very large district with a lot of the characteristics we see in those other belts, like in the Abitibi. So the other things that I do is I do a lot of short courses for the SEG. So and as people always say, teaching is one of the best ways to learn.
Yeah.
And so in doing that, synthesizing all the information I've had, I've been very fortunate to be able to convey that information with permission of my clients through various societies and so forth too. So that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people know my name outside of my clients as well too. So yeah, it's been a rewarding career. It's very good.
And what about specifically with Cassiar? What similarities did you see in the project? And I understand it's geologically quite a different context, but maybe if you don't mind sharing a little bit of what attracted you to Cassiar geologically.
Some of that I'll go over in the webinar,
Yeah.
but geologically, it's much the rocks here at Cassiar are much younger than we'd get in the Abitibi and so forth. But they're similar age to other orogenic belts in North America, such as what you see in northwestern Mexico, for example, in around La Herradura mine, and also in the Mother Lode Belt, California, and other districts around the world. So these orogenic districts can form at any age in the Earth's history, but geologically they have specific conditions they form under. They're called orogenic gold because they form, as you see in the photo behind here, during orogenesis mountain building. These are periods of time when we get large scale what we call contractual deformation, where we have the collision of an island arc with a continent or a continent with a continent, and metamorphism, where the rock mass heats up, and that heating leads to deep crustal expulsion of fluid flow into shear zones in the upper part of the crust, and the formation of vein systems that are gold bearing in these environments. So what we see at Cassiar are all those same hallmarks that we see in older districts too. So these processes repeat through geological time. They're not confined to a certain period in geological time. And so we have many of those similar characteristics at Cassiar as that we do have, for example, in the Abitibi.
And then is this completely different to what you have in the Golden Triangle?
Yeah, there's some significant differences. The Golden Triangle, these would be deposits that formed in a series of islands offshore from North America during the Jurassic period, and these are deposits that we call arc-related deposits. So, like you'd see in forming the Southwest Pacific today, or in recent tertiary time in the Southwest Pacific and the island arcs there, where we have porphyry deposits, we have epithermal systems related to the volcanism associated with those arcs. When those island arcs collide with continents like North America is when we form deposits like this. And that's exactly what happened. So the Golden Triangle is Jurassic arc. It's older than what we see the mineralization here at Cassiar. Cassiar formed when that island arc associated Stikenia with those Golden Triangle deposits collided over a long period with a bunch of different episodes with North America. And one of those periods was when we had some of the oceanic rocks between the area of the island arc and North America, what we call abducted, lifted up into the mountains here in Cassiar. And so the rocks we see here, as we'll go over in the presentation, are deep water, marine, mafic volcanic rocks, which are very typical host rocks to what you see, for example, in the Abitibi or the Mother Lode Belt in California.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Dave, I think with that short conversation, why don't we formally start the webinar?